Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Welcome to today's Grain Market Blast. It is Tuesday, the 21st of October. You join myself, Ryan Paisey, and the glamorous, the gorgeous, the goddess of grain, Angie Setzer, where Angie will be providing us with a rapid roundup of the latest pricing flows and market moving news in agricultural markets. But as usual, before we do, we got to get the boring stuff out the way first. Nothing discussed on this podcast is trading related or trading advisories or whatever you want to call it. No, we're not endorsed, although if anyone wants to shove us a few quid or dollars, we will happily take it and endorse your product. But of course, we would tell our listeners. But unfortunately, it's just me and Angie doing it for the love at the moment. Speaking of Angie and the love, how are you?
Well, I'm great. I'm super. How about you? I'm
I'm
good.
super. Thanks for asking. I can't
Well,
literally. I cannot reply unless I say thanks for asking. I'll be itching all day otherwise.
yeah, I am super. I tell you what. So, just kind of putting together the notes for the day, and I'm like, I don't even know where to begin. And I don't even know, like, it's just all. I feel like it's the same stuff, different day. We obviously hate wheat today for some reason. We just opened up this morning. Wheat is down another 6 cents or so. There's a lot of talk. Like, we've got some growing wheat crop estimates, so that might be one of those things that folks want to talk about. Is Australia has had some better weather. At least folks are saying that Australia's crop size is creeping up, and so is Argentina's. Surprise, surprise. We have another. Could you get if you said to yourself, Angie, it feels like we might have another record crop coming, you'd be correct. Because all we do anymore, honestly, is we just have record crops and record crop estimates, and then we act perplexed when the cash market doesn't reflect it. But anyway, that's really what we're dealing with right now, is just kind of an expectation that we're nearing harvest. That's one of the beauty parts about wheat in general, is that you're harvesting wheat somewhere around the world. They're planting it or whatever. And so that's kind of having an impact on feed grains. We did get some negativity out of the American Petroleum Institute today, too. Surprise, surprise. Crude dropping below $60 a barrel and gasoline prices falling has made them a little less excited to have biofuel
Right.
share
Yeah.
the attention. And so you just got to kind of a couple different things that are weighing heavily from a headline standpoint, on the fundamental side of things.
I
Right.
suppose because you've been saying recently that we're getting into a situation now where China buying beans, etc., could actually be detrimental to the US market in terms of the biofuel blend, because you don't want the price going up for that. It's going to there's already potentially a shortage of the beans for the biofuel blend, or corn and stuff for the biofuel blend. But then you compound that with oil prices being so low, that's even less of a reason for biofuels to be taken off. Is that right, or am I kind of barking up the wrong tree here?
Yeah, you're no, it's not wrong. It's not, like, I'm not gonna say it's just basically one of those things, yeah, where, right now, obviously, like, we're constantly watching crush margins, market
Right.
structure, basis levels, those types of things. And so what you're saying about the China coming in, and making these, which is what we saw Trump kind of backtrack on. I'm like, well, maybe he is following me on Twitter or something, because we did see him backtrack over the weekend where he's like, okay, well, we really don't want them to quadruple soybean sales, which is ridiculous. They bought soybean, 22 million metric ton, just over 22 million metric ton of soybeans last year. They quadruple it. That's 88 million metric ton. We're talking 3 billion bushels. That's, well over and above what we have the ability to supply. So to see him back off of it and be like, okay, well, let's just have them buy what they did a year ago, or what they were buying. And if we do that, that in and of itself is a win. I mean, the USDA right now is forecasting a reduction from China, on the scope of around 250 to 300 million, 280 million bushels, and so we're already kind of counting on reduced demand from them, and are somewhat tight from a carryout perspective. We're below 300 million bushels currently. When looking at the cash market from an overall structure and how quickly the basis bounced and some of these other things that we've seen on the cash side, the crop is obviously much smaller than what we were anticipating. So yeah, we have to be a little careful to not, get out over our skis in some of this, but you are going to see, when it comes to biofuels and biofuel blends and some of these other things, with crude falling off, with gasoline prices falling, with some of these other factors at play, that's when, basically, like, the the big oil, I'm going to say for lack of a better term, your API, some of these others, they're going to come out and they don't want to ship or like the blend rates, the things like that. Obviously it helps to kind of reduce the demand for regular diesel or
Right.
whatever. And so that's part of what you're running into today. The API conversation was more year-round E15, and they came out against that and just kind of were like, hey, that like we still think it's okay, but it's really not the thing that we want to be doing right now, or there's a lot more studying we have to do. And this is a bit of a backtrack from what they were talking about earlier this year. We had seen them join together, the API and other oil group and our ag industry representatives and kind of say, hey, we're banding together. We're calling for bigger RVOs. Like, we want to support this biofuel industry, yada, yada, yada. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's like the calls coming from inside the house. It makes you wonder where where the riff came from. It's basically like, oh, wait, that's my money. More money, please. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of what we're dealing with right now. And I think why you saw a bit of a downturn, a bit of a spook in the markets, that and we traded up to a level 1038 on the November soybean board currently that is, testing the higher end of resistance, that 1040, 1045 level. I've got farmers that had some target orders filled today. We got to where we're back up above $10 on cash on beans pretty decently. We could be selling some February beans here for, 1030, 1040 sort of area. And so I do think you did run into some farmer selling. And that's been one of the things I've been talking about too, is you've seen firmer basis, you've seen firmer spreads. The spreads have backed off a little bit, to be fair. You're back out to 19 cents or so on the Nov Jan, which isn't surprising either. That's a whole subject for another day. But you've seen all these things happen. It didn't really generate big moves into the pipeline. So you saw the futures market rally 40 cents, and it did help to bring some bushels in, if I had to guess. Corn, same sort of thing. Traded up to the recent high of the market and ran into some selling. We should see some continued pressure on corn as we work through, really when it comes down to it. The Eastern Corn Belt had some delays here in Michigan, will probably stay delayed for much of the rest of the week, but it looks like everyone else is going to kind of get back into it or was only delayed for a short term. Most of my Indiana guys, I'd say, will be done at the end of this week or close to it. You can almost say that much of Illinois, Iowa, and a lot of these other places are pretty well wrapped up with corn harvest as well. And so that's going to be one of those things that we're going to be watching here really, really closely now. It's just what basis does, what the overall market structure does, what demand feels like. And, we'll be watching really closely because China has had some pretty major issues with their corn harvest. I'll share some pictures later on Twitter from a CCTV interview that they did. And this will be something that should have an impact on wheat. Honestly, I would think that it would be supportive to wheat, but apparently nothing is supportive to wheat anymore.
I gotta
Like they
say,
even
it
had
does it does feel like since we've been doing these shows, I think I've coined the phrase before for a week, but it does feel like it's the ginger stepchild of the grain market.
it
It's
never rallies. Like we look at it
never
right
got any
now, like you
love.
had Rubio and Lavrov, you had that conversation that was basically it went so badly that they're like, no, we're not going to have a high level meeting. You saw that, you are seeing people actually start to discuss in the agriculture industry how much the damage to rail and loading infrastructure is impacting Ukraine right now. They're basically unable to move much of anything, even if they had it to move, but their harvest is so delayed in corn, they're basically 300 to 400 million bushels behind last year's pace. Like, there are so many things happening in the Black Sea that are supportive to grains, but no one cares. And so we'll see, we're watching that. I feel like I'm all over the place, discombobulated as F right now, but that's one of the things that we're watching. And we kind of are continuing to just see what happens there. Putin's giving big college boyfriend vibes. Like, I see that you're getting a little too
Love
close
it.
to this person and you're not paying enough attention to me. Like, I'm going to give you a little bit of attention because you saw that. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, the timing of that phone call, come on.
Yeah,
Because
no, exactly.
basically on the verge of the tomahawks. Like, it saw a lot of things that were developing, and Putin's like, wait, we should get together. And so then we got a couple of weeks sort of thing. You know what I mean? You saw Trump say that again. Oh, I'll make that decision in a couple weeks. But from an overall standpoint, like, there's so many moving pieces to take it in and turn it into like too long didn't read to wrap it up today. basically on the soybean side of things, I'm going to go by commodity. On the soybean side of things, harvest is wrapped up. The crop has been put away. The further we get into corn harvest, the less pressure you have on anyone pushing soybeans out into the market structure as well. Demand is obviously reasonably solid. We got export inspections yesterday for soybeans. Yes, they came in 1 million metric ton below a year ago, but they also came in above the high end of expectations and 22 million bushels above what they needed to ship each week to meet current USDA expectations. So, soybean demand into the rest of the world is pretty solid. We're cheap. We're cheaper. We provide opportunity for folks to have some margins if they wanted to import. So you're going to see a continuation of reasonably strong crush demand, especially because we aren't getting the bushels moving into the pipeline that we thought. You should see soybeans maintain support. I mean, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see them try to test, 1025 to 1020 on the low end just to see what's down there. I mean, they may be they may be hard pressed to push above 1040 in the short term. But I really don't think, we have to be as negative to beans as everyone wants to be because the pressure is done. Like, remember, in grain, you have natural buyers and natural sellers as well, in addition to all the other factors. And you have run out of natural sellers in soybeans in the short term, and you only have natural buyers because a lot of them thought they were going to be able to make purchases for a hell of a lot cheaper than what they're seeing right now. And so there's going to be some interesting dynamics. Delivery is going to make it funkier. You've got large commercials that are going to kind of play around with those spreads. You probably will see the spread stay really wide until the farmer's forced out. That's going to make them have to roll their price. It's going to keep them from, really receiving a lot of upfront, good stuff for the bushels that they moved in. And so that'll be the thing we watch in soybeans. On the corn side, we're really working to wrap up harvest. Everyone wants to be negative demand. So anytime they get an opportunity to be, like today with the E15, year-round E15 rejection from API and all that other stuff, like they're going to try to say, well, we're overestimating demand. That's going to be the constant argument that you have, especially because there are a lot of people with egg on their face right now over actual crop size as we see this thing come in. And I got an email this morning from one of my ethanol buyers that was like, a week ago, he was super confident they were going to be able to back off bid. Everything was going to be rolling in. They were going to get a ton of bushels. This morning, he messaged me and he's like, what's going on out there? Like, I know commercials aren't excited to sell me anything. I know with farmers, like when I drive around, we're over halfway harvested. Like, we're not getting the flow in that we thought we would. Can I pick your brain on this? Like, what's happening? And so there are just some really interesting things that are happening in the corn market too that don't add up when it comes to being overwhelmed with supply across much of the U.S. Are there pockets of it? Sure. But I don't know if it's as bad. It's nowhere near what people said it was going to be. And I think corn's going to maintain support because of that. On the wheat side of things, probably just need to test the old low and work to bounce back. Demand is still really solid. You're seeing Egypt buy out of France. There's a lot of talk that Russia's going to still export 5 million metric ton this month of wheat. I need to see. I haven't seen any actual data from that, just people talking like, oh yeah, so they should probably get some sort of customs data. I appreciate your assertion, sir, but I would like to see a actual chart of loadings, please.
Yeah, right. Show me the data.
Yes, I need the data. I'm generally not a data person, but I need the data.
I hope you appreciate that I use the US data, not the correct data.
Data. We like our what is that, a soft data? How is that, a long? Is it long?
I don't know. You're the English expert.
Data. Yeah, I have no idea. You think I actually paid attention?
No, not really, to be honest.
That's why. You want to know why I was an English major? It was the easiest, mate. All I need to do was read and write, and I can do that really well. Hence my job. But yeah, so here we are. I mean, market wise, like I feel like we come on and I just babble at you guys with no real clarity, but there isn't any.
Yeah.
There is no real clarity in this whole entire thing right now. We're basically, I'm pumped because this is the greatest time of the year because you have all of the supply, you have it going into places, you get to watch how the market dynamics are going to work to get that supply to move. We have a lot of things that people are assuming are hard and fast. Like, this is what's going to happen and this is what's going to happen. And they're going to be really shocked when it doesn't. And yeah, heck yeah, let's go, let's party. But not wheat, because apparently wheat's decided it wants to retest the old low. And so we're just going to ignore it until it's done throwing its stupid little fit.
I love it. Well, the thing is, what I love about these shows is the honesty, because we're not trying to, if we don't know what's going on, or if we'll freely admit that, fuck me, there's too much going on and it's all a bit of a mess. And that's what we want, right? We want honesty, which is what you bring to the table. But Angie, thank you so much as always. I really do appreciate the show. You coming on the show, you know that. Listeners, we really do appreciate you as well. Bit of a housekeeping message. If you check the pinned tweet on PIQ Suite, so at PIQ Suite, I put all the Twitter lists that we curate on there. We have done one with the aid of the awesome Angie. We have done an ags focus one. So if you are on Twitter and you are getting a bit tired of all the noise and no signal, do consider subscribing to or following our Twitter list dedicated to the agricultural markets. Hopefully that makes your life a little bit easier. And there's been some movements behind the scenes with PIQ's app as well, where we are kind of refining the agricultural feeds and stuff on there. So hopefully soon we'll be making your experience far more easy to keep track of market moving news and headlines and flows, etc., etc. But that's it for me and waffling along. Whatever you're doing today, stay safe, keep it tight, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Goodbye.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye-bye.